Greetings, everyone. Welcome.
Greetings.
Welcome, welcome. Most of you know me. For those that don't, my name is Siphiwe Baleka. We're going to get started in just a moment here. I just want to make sure I get my note taker on, because I find that it's a useful tool, even though I'm not a big fan of AI. I do notice their meeting summaries are helpful. All right, let's see. Okay. It is the top of the hour. I want to respect everyone's time. This meeting is being... excuse me, Clara, can you turn
I muted her. You
Okay.
can go on.
Thank you. I do want to respect everyone's time. This meeting is being recorded for those that come late or are unable to make it to the meeting, so that everybody has the information. When you receive this recording, feel free to share it. Let me begin by invoking our ancestors, and I'm going to do it in my native Balanta tongue. Abene binham neyo wule. Thank you, wise ancestors of the past. We thank you for being present with us to guide our ship, that we may sail correctly. We are gathered today on behalf of all of those ancestors who survived the trafficking from their ancestral homelands and were brought as prisoners of war into the Americas and enslaved and survived and resisted, and are now gathered here in this momentous occasion to fulfill the dream of so many of our heroes and sheroes, particularly Marcus Mosiah Garvey, to build a united African states, which cannot happen unless those of us in the African diaspora are reunited with our brothers on the continent and share in the governing. Ashe. Okay, so
I say you were kind of breaking up a little bit, brother. I say.
Ashe, all right. I'm not sure who that is, that microphone.
I'll make sure I mute people. You can continue.
Okay, all right. So by way of introduction, this meeting is a meeting to give some information, very important information, concerning the African diaspora, also referred to as the African Union 6th region, and the process for electing representatives to sit on the African Union Economic, Social, and Cultural Council. This is new information that is the result of consultations that took place in Gambia at the end of October during the 81st session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. So I'm going to present this information. We can discuss it. I'm going to give some instructions. But the first thing I want to do is just a brief historical background. Most of us here are aware that the Organization of African Unity that was established in 1963, after it rid the continent of the physical occupation of the colonizers and achieved independence, that in the late 1990s, it began discussing reforming itself, and it transitioned into the African Union, which is an intergovernmental association of member states. The African Union itself is not a sovereign power. It's an intergovernmental association of states. It can set policies that the states themselves have the power to either implement or reject. In 2003, the African Union amended its constitution with the Article 3Q amendment that officially invited and encouraged the African diaspora to become a full part of the African Union and building the continent. This was a momentous occasion because for the first time, it allowed the African diaspora, and I'll use the language of the African Union, the historical diaspora, those of us who are, whose ancestors were captured and taken as prisoners of war and enslaved in the Americas. For the first time, it allowed us to reconnect and be part of the governing of the continent. It just so happens that February 3rd and 4th, 2003 meeting that amended the Constitution with the Article 3Q amendment, I happened to be there in Addis Ababa in the building. I happened to have been the only member of the African diaspora present. I was there as a journalist for Rastafari Speaks newspaper. I had official press credentials given to me by the government of Ethiopia, and that's why I happened to be in the room. So I mentioned all of that to say that at that moment, I felt like Malcolm X, who was the representative of the 22 million African Americans when he went to the OAU in 1964. So I mention this because there's a certain spiritual calling and anointing that I received because I was present at that moment. And I felt I had a duty and an obligation to share the information to the African diaspora, since it wasn't being covered in the media and most of our community wasn't aware of what was happening. So my history, my roots, my involvement in this go to the very beginning. After that, the African Union, through its Economic, Social, and Cultural Council, which is an advisory organ of the African Union, it was decided that this would be the proper organ to begin the diaspora's involvement, since our connection was maintained through cultural and social manifestations, and that this would be a logical basis for our connection. So by having representatives in the Economic, Social, Cultural Council, we're doing business together, we're making music together, we're eating together, we're being social, making that reconnection. It was decided this would be the first organ that we would be included in. At the launch of the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council, it was decided that there were 150 seats for the 5 regions in Africa, North, South, East, and West, and Central Africa, and that 20 seats would be reserved for the African diaspora. At that time, the only instruction given was ECOSOCC statute 𝐂-ECOSOCC statutes, it's Article 5, Section 3, that said that the diaspora should organize itself. That was the only instruction that was given at that time. And from that time, 2005, 2006 to the present, we have yet to fulfill that instruction. Many efforts and attempts have been made by many individuals and organizations. I was involved in the earliest ones. Some of you that are on this call may have been involved. And there have been many organizations that have attempted to, in good faith, fulfill the Article 3Q amendment and organize and or represent the diaspora as the AU6th region. But we never actually went through an election, a credible and valid election process and said, here are our 20 representatives. So fast forward to the 81st session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. I was asked to attend that meeting by Dr. Beryl Beekman, who for 20 years has been in the forefront of this African Diaspora AU6th region initiative, working out of Europe, working out of the Netherlands. She and I have worked closely together. She asked me to go to this session and said it was important. And she told me, you will know what to say. And that was it. As I am currently living in Guinea-Bissau, it's only a day's journey on road from Bissau to Banjul, Gambia, so I was able to go on short notice. My intention was to submit a statement and raise the issue of the African diaspora's right to return, an unqualified right to return, since our ancestors never voluntarily relinquished their residence and domicile. We were taken as prisoners of war, and under the Geneva Convention, we have the right to be repatriated. I wanted to raise this issue under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and suggest that any African country, any AU member state that was preventing our unqualified recognition and right to return was violating the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. I submitted a statement and was able to identify two commissioners whose working groups would have jurisdiction over diaspora matters, our repatriation, our citizenship issues. And I was able to introduce myself, get them my statement, and as a result of that, I was able to have consultations with the right people. So let me share my screen a little bit, because I'm a visual learner, and it's good to see some of this. So hold on, let me fix my screen. So here I am at the African Commission, 81st session at the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. My statement was accepted. You can read the statement. I document pretty much everything. As a result, I was able to have a consultation with this woman. This is the Honorable Dr. Letha Mujimi-Ogana, chairperson of the Working Group on Indigenous Populations and Minorities in Africa. Okay, so we had a consultation. It also included, where is his name? This gentleman right here, Petrus, who is the legal advisor within the African Union. I have his official title somewhere in here. Petrus Hatupopi, legal officer in the Secretariat of the Commission. All right. So in this meeting, we had discussed a lot of things, but one of the things that we discussed was the fact that recently, the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council of the African Union had called for, actually, let me see if I can find it, put it on the screen, had called, here it is, 𝐂𝐵-𝐶𝐶 call for applications for elections into the 4th Permanent General Assembly. Okay. This was dated, it's very recent. I don't see the date on here. But anyways, the call says under Article 4 of the 𝐂𝐵-𝐶𝐶 statutes, 𝐂𝐵-ccc is composed of 154 civil society organizations, 2 civil society organizations from each member state, 55 of them, 10 CSOs operating at a regional level and 8 at a continental level, 20 CSOs from the African diaspora as defined by the Executive Council and covering the continents of the world, and 6 CSOs in ex officio capacity. Okay. Where is it? Okay, right here. In order to allow for greater representation of civil society organizations from the 55 member states of the Union and the 5 regions of Africa, 𝐂𝐵-𝐶𝐶 is encouraging the civil society community, including but not limited to social groups, professional groups, non-governmental organizations, community-based organizations, volunteer organizations, and cultural organizations to apply for 𝐂𝐵-𝐶𝐶 membership by filling the attached application form and providing all relevant support documents. Okay, so the application process, okay, was open to the 5 regions of Africa. What about the 6th region? So it was in this way that the next batch of representatives in the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council was going to be elected, and it excluded the 6th region. So in our consultation, it was decided that we should follow the original 𝐂𝐵-𝐶𝐶 mandate that said, civil society, African diaspora civil society, organize yourselves. Okay. And let's see. There's one more. And there was another web page I was looking for. See if I can find it. Sorry for the delay. All right, here it is. Electing the African Diaspora AU 6th Region representatives. So during the meeting, right, a plan emerged, and the advice that was given was that the diaspora should hold a truly representative gathering of the African diaspora. Hash it out amongst yourselves and come to the roundtable with your 20 representatives. Following that, bring a resolution to a 9th Pan-African Congress to be held in 2025. With the Commission and the 9th PAC authority, it will then be brought to the AU Summit. This was the advice that was given to me at that 81st session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. So now it becomes a technical matter. How do we hold a truly representative gathering of the African diaspora and elect 20 representatives? Okay. The first thing that we needed was a resolution from the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. So after that meeting, I took all the ideas that were presented in the meeting, which also included the head of the South African delegation, and we drafted some language that could be included in the resolution, which was approved but hasn't yet been uploaded or published to the official African Commission website. But this was the draft working document for that resolution. My understanding is some of it has been changed. This is not the official resolution, but I'm just showing you this process. Okay, now that a resolution was adopted, okay, where's my instructions? Oh, it's on the same page. Share my screen again. All right. So once the resolution was adopted, then we had to figure out, the African Union is meeting in February. I was told that it would be best that we conclude the elections by January. Okay, so that's not a lot of time, and we're not going to be able to mobilize people to meet physically in all the regions within the 6th region. Those regions are Brazil, United States, the Caribbean, South America, Europe, Middle East, Central America, Canada, and Asia and Oceania. So we are being asked to execute, perform something incredible. How do we get all of these regions to gather their civil society and elect their representatives? This was the best plan that we came up with. A coordinator from each of the 9 regions of the African Union 6th region, that's Brazil, United States, Caribbean, South America, Europe, Middle East, Central America, Canada, Asia, and Oceania, will host weekly 6th region representation town hall Zoom meetings. That's a total of 4 meetings for each of the 9 regions, or 36 Zoom meetings. The idea was to hold meetings in November and December. The goal is to get 400 to 600 participants involved in each region, or 3,600 to 5,400 total people that would satisfy the criteria, a truly representative gathering of the African diaspora. The purpose of the first 4 town hall Zoom meetings is to invite all individuals and organizations to the process, provide the relevant information, and invite them to nominate candidates to represent the region. It doesn't matter so much who the 9 regional coordinators are, because they are merely technicians who must have the capacity, the time, the energy, and a paid Zoom account to host the town hall meetings consistently each week for the rest of November and December. Those interested in serving as the coordinator for their region must email newafricandiplomaticcorps@gmail.com immediately. Step 2, the 9 regional coordinators will then hold 4 more weekly Zoom meetings in December. The first 2 meetings are to listen to the nominated candidates, and the last 2 meetings of December is to complete the election process. All other procedures needed will be determined by the regions themselves. Each region must submit its list of representatives by December 31st. The number of representatives shall be as follows, and is based roughly on population and level of Pan-African activism. Brazil 4, United States 4, Caribbean 4, South America 2, and that's South America excluding Brazil because they have their own. Europe 2, Middle East 1, Central America 1, Canada 1, Asia and Oceania 1. That's 20 seats. The 20 candidates will then be presented to the 9th Pan-African Congress or other suitable grand gathering for a resolution recognizing them in their capacity, which will then be presented to the African Union Economic, Social, and Cultural Council. The 20 representatives will also be presented and shared with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights at its 83rd open session that will host a roundtable discussion on the AU theme of the year for 2025, which is Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. The discussion will inform the overall theme, and particularly Afro-descendant ancestry and integration, the AU 6th region, the notion of human rights abuses from abduction and enforced disappearances of Africans trafficked as prisoners of war and enslaved in the Americas, and reparations arriving from slavery, colonization of the motherland, and neocolonialism. The Commission will work closely with the host state party for the International Conference on Xenophobia, which is the host is South Africa, in order to spotlight the issues at the February 2025 AU Summit. This is the new accelerated path towards establishing the AU 6th region. Whatever previous plans or arrangements some may have had, the African Union through 𝐀𝐔 and the ACHPR has now introduced a new variable that has changed the game. We can finally achieve what we haven't in 20 years if we put all the petty differences aside, work in one accord following the above instructions, and simply execute. This is a parallel process since the 𝐀𝐔 call for applications for elections into the 4th Permanent General Assembly excluded the 6th region. So I just want to reemphasize, for 20 years, we have not been able to achieve this. Okay? When I was serving as the coordinator for Her Excellency Ambassador Arikana Chihombo-Rikwao, when she was organizing her 8th Pan-African Congress Part 1 to be held in Zimbabwe last year that was indefinitely postponed, she talked about the strategy that she called the enter and enlarge. It is no use for the African diaspora to stand outside the African Union shouting about all of our demands, complaints, whatever, suggestions. That we should enter the African Union and then once inside, enlarge our presence. And this is the entryway. So given now that we have this kind of support, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, recognizing our right to return, recognizing the AU 6th region and supporting us and encouraging us to follow the original 𝐀𝐔 statute, we can actually get done in a few months' time what we haven't been able to do in 20 years. If we all agree and say, look, we're not going to quibble over the number of representatives from this country or that. We're not going to quibble about that stuff. Let's just do what we need to do to fulfill our part of the deal so that we can enter and then enlarge. Okay, so now let me land there. I'm going to ask Dr. Morial to now kind of chair the meeting, right? And anybody that has questions, comments, now is the discussion where we can clarify any information, talk about any challenges or whatever. But the task in front of us right now is, how do we find 9 coordinators? One technically competent person in each region who will understand the instructions, run those weekly Zoom meetings, and be responsible for having the elections in that region concluded. So I yield, and
I think it's going to be important that people, since there's so many people, it's difficult for people to jump in. Maybe it's best they raise their hand and we recognize them and unmute them. So if you would raise your hand, and then I will unmute you. and give you a chance to make a comment. Okay. So, Abimi, please unmute yourself, or I can unmute you. If you unmute yourself, please.
Greetings, all protocols observed. Can I be heard loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Thank you so very much. Again, all protocols observed through the chair. Thank you so very much, Your Excellency, Siphiwe Baleka, for the invitation for today's town hall. I was not here at the very start, but I did get a significant portion of your sharing. It's quite consistent, I must say, with what you have shared before. As a representative of the Caribbean region, for which there is a proposal for 4 representatives, nothing ratified, but I guess a proposal for 4 representatives. I want to highlight the following. One, as a member of CPAN, the Caribbean Pan-African Network, which I am not representing today at all, and as also a member of and media personality on behalf of the Emancipation Support Committee, which is the Secretariat for the Caribbean Pan-African Network. Again, I don't represent them today. I want to make that abundantly clear. One of the things I've observed over the years, and I suspect it might be a challenge here, is that the African community has never really lacked great ideas and proposals, and this certainly is a most excellent one and a very clearly well-planned, well-executed, if at all possible, agenda along this line is certainly going to yield results. My concerns are the following. Number one, while the coordinators need only have a Zoom account, a professional one that can conduct this exercise, perhaps someone with, relatively decent chairing and hosting capabilities to engage an exercise of this nature. The problem has been, and I contend it might be and will be, that unless that individual and or organization is truly recognized by the Pan-African body politic in that region, you can have as many Zoom conferences as you want. You can go through all of the processes that you very clearly delineated here for us. But at the end of the process, it's not recognized if it doesn't pass the gatekeepers. I want to be honest with you all on today. There are gatekeepers in the Pan-African community. They exist in the Caribbean. They exist in Brazil. They exist in America. They exist in Europe, all the regions. So this is not a Caribbean thing. This is not a Caribbean exclusivist thing. And I'm saying that while I would love today, because I have the time, talent, and treasure to say, here I am, send me. I coordinate meetings like these with my eyes closed all the time. I want to suggest to us that unless we have the significant buy-in from the gatekeepers who themselves have very significant sway at the African Union by way of back channeling and their diplomatic representatives over the years, my fear is that it might not be the kind of exercise that we want it to be. So my question coming out of that statement is there going to be an attempt to invite to the table those significant actors and institutions who, should they conduct this exercise as per your proposal, it would not just be seen as an exercise in futility, but it would have the requisite recognition and respect that it deserves in order to carry the weight demanded in order to enter into such an august sphere. And with that, I want to land
sir, can you wrap up in about 15 seconds, please?
I'm done, actually. I yielded there. I
yield. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Let me respond to that. Thank you to my good friend, colleague, Ambassador Reverend 𝐀𝐔-𝐄𝐂𝐎𝐒. He and I have worked together on this issue previously, and all of the points that he raised, he has consistently brought to my attention and helped to work through. The intention is that these so-called gatekeepers, of course, We want to invite them. Anyone that is eminent, anyone that has been working on this issue, that has a history, this is a call for Ubuntu and unity. It's a test of us whether we're going to rise to the occasion. So yes, you're right. While we do need technicians to run the meetings, it's expected, it's ideal that those prominent people in the Pan-African community in each region would get on board. And I attempted to contact those people that I know that have been involved so that they could actually be at this meeting, get all the information in the beginning and get on board. How that is going to be achieved in each region is going to be a challenge. You yourself know very well your region in the Caribbean, and I will be counting on you, your network, to overcome the very challenge that you raised. My only offering at this point is simply to say, we're not doing this because Siphiwe Baleka said to do it. I'm literally saying, look, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights is now putting it on its agenda and is going to assist us in putting it on the AU's agenda and have laid out a pathway. We've all wanted this for 20 years. So now we can do it. How to get that message across? I'm going to be relying on people like you. Maybe that's not a sufficient answer. I'm available to do whatever public speaking, but I can't hold all the Zoom meetings, nor should I. It should be those very people that you mentioned that hold those meetings in the region so that it does have the requisite status. Okay, next question.
There was Prince Michael. Before you speak, I think it would be good if everybody who's on this Zoom can post in the chat your name, the organization you're affiliated with, and what region you are representing, so we can compile a list for outreaching. Prince Michael, you can speak now.
Yes. Good day, everybody. Prince Michael, African Diaspora Voters Education Board, United States region, I guess. So my question or comment would be based around a couple fundamental things. One, the timeline, understanding the meeting taking place in next February doesn't give us much time, as you said. One, how pressing on us is it to confine ourselves to that narrow timeline? Is it a necessity and absolute that we have to? Yes, we do realize the advantage of being able to be present in full form at, in February. However, given the realities of accomplishing, within a couple months, what hasn't happened in 20 years, and the challenges, some of the fundamental challenges, without having been expressed the support from, let's say, the African Union, to be able to overcome some of the fundamental hurdles in that challenge, which those fundamental hurdles I see being awareness, and to suggest for that, we do have social media nowadays, which you can kind of, it's the best indicator we can have as, to say nomination. You do have people who have been, quote unquote, nominated by the people, or what we can say followed by the people. We can say for Pan-Africanism, there are very popular social media presence and personalities who have large followings. I think integrating them into this process would give it a little bit more substance. To even say as a requirement, each region needs to present, one or two or however many people who have proven to having been nominated by the people by way of social media, engagement or whatever. And then lastly, if without that component, let's say we failed to be able to achieve that, the African Union itself having a press conference to announce this on a television format, widely publicized in Africa, that can be shared, through social media to raise the awareness and accelerate, in fact, maximize the potential for awareness over the next, let's say couple weeks. So that way we can, have a fighting chance of making sure the participation is adequate, to say truly representative, because I did hear you stress that. So those would be my 3 points that I wanted to put out there. And I think the last one, if it's something that is manageable, within your organization, being that you're liaising with them, can we get that commitment to say, okay, if they're truly supportive of us doing this and accomplishing this, this nearly, very difficult task within the next couple months, I think the least we can get is a proper press announcement from them that has that will organically be shared all over social media to raise awareness.
Okay, let me answer that. Let me answer that last point, and then I'll comment on the timeline. What we are going to get from the African Commission on Human and People's Rights is the resolution. That's their statement of commitment. That resolution, and it says they're going to host this roundtable where our issues, right of return, citizenship, AU-6 region, and reparations, is going to be the focal point. So we're not going to get them to issue a press release or anything like that. They're not going to do that. They have, officials in their personal capacity have advised us and said, this is what you all need to do in order to make it happen. We're on our own, okay? But we have that resolution in their commitment. Now, regarding the timeline, on the one hand, this is a strategic moment. It's one of those, the opportunity has presented itself. Can we seize it? Are we prepared to move in one accord and seize it? Okay, and make it happen. I'll explain more on that in a minute. Now, if we don't meet this particular fast track timeline, does it mean it will never happen? Of course not. Okay, this thing is going to go on well beyond this particular event horizon. People are going to continue. As long as the African Union exists, the AU-6 region is going to exist in either as a concept or a formal organization, and people are going to try to engage. We have to understand that it's a perfect storm. The African Union has said 2025 is going to be the year they focus on African descendants and reparations. So all next year, 2025, that's going to be the program of the African Union. Within that, the African Union keeps saying they want greater engagement with the African diaspora. If you look at the Accra Proclamation coming out of last year's event, they talk about a legal reference group on reparations. They talk about experts group. They talk about all these things that transitional justice policy, all these things that are supposed to happen. But as Reverend Kamau had mentioned, there are gatekeepers. So only some elements of the diaspora civil society are privy to the information and are involved, and others are left out, okay? Given the fact that the AU has this theme next year, and given the fact that the African Commission on Human and People's Rights has now committed in May to set this roundtable for us to bring our issues to the African Union, I'm saying it's a perfect storm for us to do whatever we can to meet the timeline, to take advantage of it. Because again, we haven't been able to do this in 20 years. There's the possibility we can get it done by the end of 2025 if, one, we find our coordinators. The key here is what they said, a truly representative gathering. In the past, the various efforts that have tried to meet this historical imperative have went forward, but the African Union has not necessarily recognized it as a truly representative. It might be a small group, might be a group of prominent people, but that key phrase is truly representative. So if we can do that, have a truly representative gathering, right, with 400 to 600 people from all 9 regions, then they can't deny us on the fact that, well, this isn't a real expression of the will of the African diaspora. So that's what we have to satisfy. This timeline, yes, it's quick, it's short, but we have technology. It's for us to rise to the occasion, use it, and we've done it before. When we were having the town hall Zoom meetings for the 8th Pan-African Congress Part 1 in Zimbabwe, we were consistently getting 400 to 600 people on those Zooms. So that number wasn't just picked out of a hat. It was based on something we've done already. So I don't know if I answered all of your questions, but I'm doing the best I can.
You have brother Abdul next. Brother Abdul, you had some comments.
No, not right there. I changed my mind. I'm gonna hold up. Get my thoughts more together.
Brother Michael, you want to respond to that?
Well, there was one point he missed that thank you for that, Brother Siphiwe. One point was the social media. It was more of a solution that maybe you can comment on. And having heard what you just said, perhaps to speak to and bolster the truly representative point, you can create a central or brand this election with its own unique social media presence, the pages specifically for this election, to give us the opportunity to amass a large following on that social media account,
right,
be it Twitter or.
Let me address that, Prince Michael. You're bringing up some great points, but for example, I don't have the capacity to do that. And I'm deliberately, because this is an ecumenical effort, I deliberately did not try to create an entity because we have plenty of entities. I'm trying to invite all of those entities that really have an interest in this to have this seat at the table right now and to decentralize it. As far as the media, yes, right? What I'm saying is each of those 9 regions, it's on you to get the word out in your region. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp groups, whatever. Me, I don't have the language skills to be doing it in Portuguese and Spanish and French and Haitian Creole and whatever, and whatever, right? So, for example, I'm gonna just pick Central America. If we have anyone from Central America on this call, I know Central America has CABO, Central American Black Organizations, which is an umbrella organization for civil society networks. When we attempted to do this in 2005, 2006, I went to their annual convention. All the civil society groups were already there, and it was very easy for them to elect their representatives because they were already organized in a way that we weren't in the United States. So what I'm saying is, each region, it's on you to identify your social media channels, your influencers, to get the message out in your region. Because it's 2 steps. First, in order for this to be credible, we have to follow the Ubuntu, leave no one behind. So we got to invite everybody. We have to demonstrate we made a credible effort to invite everybody in every region. All civil society and interested individuals. So we have the rest of the month, November, to do that. Each region, use whatever means you have. It's not for me to set up a new brand. That's not what this is. Once you've made a good faith effort to invite everybody in, whoever responds, responds. Those people will then say, I'd like to nominate this person, and here's the reason why. So we go through a short period where we're receiving nominations. And then the final 2 weeks is those people that have been nominated get a chance to present why they should be. That region decides how it's going to do its vote. It can be different in each region. So this is a decentralized, we don't want the perception that this is proprietary to any organization. I am simply a messenger, okay? I just happen to have been there when it happened in 2003. And it's no coincidence that I was there now at the 81st session where this thing is happening, right? So me, I have some kind of anointing right now. My heart, my soul, my spirit is, let's execute and perform and do it. Let's invite everybody. Let's invite groups like SOAD, right, who's been doing great work in this area. Let's invite AfriDu. Let's get the AU-ADS High Council. Let's get everybody who's worked on this for 20 years on board. And to Reverend 𝐂𝐒-𝐄𝐒's point, if enough of them do, they're going to have sufficient credibility, I think, to answer any gatekeepers who might work against this process. So I yield. Let's go to the next question.
Free the land. This brother Jami Lumon.
Go ahead. You have the floor.
I would like to suggest that, well, I commend the brother on trying to get a publicity and to, like, get some press conferences or something like that, and we people in the different regions can hold them. But I would think that a lot of the people who have missed this first meeting and a lot of people who we want to invite, they can get in on the ground floor by the host uploading this meeting to YouTube and Facebook, right? And also by everybody on this call sharing that link to the Facebook and to YouTube to the people in their networks. And it kind of like ripple effect, like spread outward. And another thing I commend, and that was a brilliant idea of Dr. Eric Connor, that we get in and then expand. Because ultimately, if we can't succeed at the Economic Council or Commission, then how are we going to ever, as a sixth region, get a spot on the Assembly or higher up in the African Union, right? So I just want to say that, you know, although I have a lot of problems and things like that, like it's such as the timeline or the number of representatives, vice versa, the other people, the other regions in the 154, like you said, we can deal with all that later. Right now is to get this done. And it's a task that I think we're very capable of doing. And one problem with us people, we tend to not want to make the sacrifices, roll up our sleeves, unless we're forced by some external force like the slave master or a pandemic or an act of God to really make those fundamental changes and take those crucial steps that we can. But I think we got this. We just need to not, you know, just believe in ourselves and come together, huh? Free the land.
Thank you.
We don't need no slave master forcing us or hitting us with the whip or telling you, y'all get away from here and making us have to do on our own, huh?
Okay, thanks. One thing we can do is I'm asking everyone to put your information in the chat, and what we can do is make sure we get this recording out to everyone. I don't see any other hands raised. If you want to make a comment, please click on the raise hand button. Okay, there's one more person. Prince Michael, you're back again.
Yes, sir. Okay, yeah, I agree. I agree with the brother that just spoke about uploading this meeting, and with clear instructions so just to be clear, you're saying for every region to take it upon itself to hold its to find its coordinators, correct? The coordinators are the one who hold the town meetings, and the town meetings are where the nominations take place. Is that correct?
Okay, so what's going to happen from this point forward? I'm going to get all the contact information from people. I haven't even looked at the chat. I know people are dropping stuff in the chat. I know we have people from many of the regions, if not all of the regions. Some people are even volunteering. What is going to happen? Right after this meeting, I'm going to upload this to YouTube and share that link. I'm going to make a list of the people in each of the regions right now who are saying they're interested in being the coordinators. And what I will do is within 48 hours, right? Well, within the next 12 to 24 hours, right? I will say, okay, here are all the people in each region, okay, that want to take responsibility for that region, okay? You guys form your regional committee and decide who's going to be the coordinator. And within 48 hours, I will make an announcement. These are the 9 regional coordinators. And at that point, it's decentralized. Everybody go forth and fulfill the mission. I will be here to kind of make sure we stay on track. And I will be kind of that central reporting hub. So once those coordinators are identified and they can have their committee to assist them, whatever they do, they should be reporting it to me so I can provide oversight and update and let everybody know how the process is going. Some regions are going to be doing great, other regions may struggle, but within the next 48 hours, we should know who those coordinators are. They pick the date and time for their weekly meetings. They run it for their region. Did that answer your question, Prince Michael?
Yes, it did. I would just in closing, one, commend your desire to not centralize things and seem as if you are, grabbing it by the neck and forcing it in any direction. But I would advise that the benefits and advantage of centralization in as it regards having an organized presentation in place for people to access information, which communication is going to be very critical at this point, especially if we're talking about execution in a short timeline. And I would advise a website specifically for this election, where announcements can be made and regarded as.
Oops, you got yourself muted, Prince Michael, but
I did that by mistake. Please
okay.
unmute yourself, Prince Michael.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
Oops, it happened again. Listen, Prince Michael, why don't you and I, sometime after this meeting, we can talk about implementing or setting up these ideas that you have that may assist us. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't have all the capacity and skills to be doing professional branding, videos, logos, website, and doing all of that. Now, if somebody is volunteering to help me and they can get that up and we can not only get it up, but we can manage it in an efficient way, I'm going to use by any means necessary. So me and you, we can talk about that after this meeting if that's good for you.
Yeah, I think I can help on that too.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
There is my brother Ambassador 𝐂𝐿. His hand was up first, so please go ahead, Prince Michael, and yield to him.
Sure. Again, all protocols observed through the chair. I love the momentum. I love the excitement. Ambassador Siphiwe, we have had this discussion on numerous occasions. I would humbly ask, though, that before we go live with this video, as it is now, whether we do or not will be dependent on the collective. There is some very important back channeling as an ambassador that I believe is incumbent upon us. I don't know to what extent you reached out to some of the heavy hitters within the various regions, because many of them are not reflected in today's most august and important meeting. And I think that the first time they hear about this or see this should not be on the social media. I would respectfully submit that we be allowed sufficient time to do that back channeling, to bring them to the table before we announce something first and then bring them in after. Now, again, I don't know to what extent you reached out to them and what their responses were. But in the realm of diplomacy, while we want to get the masses involved, this is not going to happen without those persons of eminent domain and the power brokers and the gatekeepers within our realm. And I'm saying that we need a 24 to 48 hour period within which to reach out to them and to back channel this. We can massage solutions so that when this goes live, it goes live with the sufficient buy-in from the necessary stakeholders to make it happen. I don't know to what extent you would want to acquiesce to that suggestion. It is just that, a suggestion, not a demand. And again, I will inquire of you both here and back channeling of our own that will happen subsequent to this. You and I know that there are a number of people that need to be here that are not here. And for them to see this on the media before they are called into the room, they will take umbrage too. And I'm saying that as just a diplomatic suggestion that perhaps that should be the way to go. But I will acquiesce to whatever the masses say in this regard.
So watch this. You know this is coming, Reverend Kwame. You know this is coming. So first, I did reach out to everyone in my network via email and all of my WhatsApp group networks, and everybody got the information. But it was short time. Whether or not people actually saw it is another matter. Now, since we've already said that we have like a 12, a 24, and a 48-hour time frame. So 48 hours from now is when we say these are the coordinators. So I am deputizing you, my good friend and good brother, with this great idea, right? You are now head of the back channel committee. Anybody else that also understands, because your point is well taken, and who wants to do this back channeling, diplomatic outreach work, you have 48 hours to do it. You know who to reach out in your regions. And if you guys work together, right? Because I'm quite sure that the people in the Middle East or Asia Oceania region, I don't have a whole lot of contacts there. But I know you have a whole lot of contacts in the Caribbean. So your point is well taken. I'm simply saying, okay, you know who those people are. You are empowered to say, hey, look, we were at this meeting. Here are the links Siphiwe has already posted with the basic information that's been shared with everyone. This is what was discussed in the meeting. And you can do that back channeling work. We all can do that back channeling work. We have 48 hours to do it.
So we have Dr. 𝐂𝐎 and then Brother Lugman again, and then Sherry Suttles after that. Please try to keep your comments to about 2 minutes or no more. Dr. 𝐂𝐎.
Thank you, Dr. Moriel. And I'd like to thank everyone who is on this call this evening. Brother Balika, I'm correct, Balika? Again, thank you for this assembly. But actually, the speaker who just presented pretty much asked the question that I was going to ask, because I also see the absence of a lot of key individuals in terms of this initiative. I've had the honor to follow this agenda basically since it commenced. And I've devoted a lot of time and resources from the Middle East expression of this initiative. But I did have a question. I may have missed a point you made, but is this initiative that we're discussing now, how is it connected with CIDO of the African Union?
Not
because
Go ahead.
Please.
If you weren't finished, go ahead.
No,
Finish your
no.
question. Okay.
That's enough. That's enough.
So, not formally, this is not a CIDO directive. What I showed in the presentation was CIDO and the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council gave their directive in that call for representation, and they limited it to the 5 regions. CIDO and AU-ECOSOCC said, it's now time for us to elect representatives to take those seats, right, and to join as civil society organizations. And that was limited to the 5 regions. So the direct answer to your question is, this is not a CIDO event. What we are doing is we are saying, look, for 20 years under the Article 3Q amendment, we have been invited to fully participate. And the first instruction we got under ECOSOCC Statute 5, Section 3, I believe it is diaspora, organize yourselves, determine your own modalities for the election, and elect your 20 representatives. We have yet to have, in their eyes, a truly representative gathering that has accomplished that. If and when we do that, we will have satisfied on our end something that we need to do for ourselves, regardless of CIDO or ECO. For those of you who don't know, CIDO is Citizens and Diaspora Directorate. It's an organ within the African Union that's responsible for the diaspora initiative, okay? We have to do this for ourselves regardless of the AU, of CIDO, and all of that. We were told to elect our representatives and present them. If we do that in a credible way, we can demonstrate it was truly representative, and we take it to either a 9th Pan-African Congress or some other grand gathering, and they certify it. I have been advised that we can't be refused at that point, and we will have the backing of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, and we are to present this at that May forum. Does that answer your question?
So we have Brother Luckman again, and then after that, Sherry Suttles, and then after that, 𝐀𝐔.
Hold on real quick. I just wanted to ask Dr. 𝐂𝐿, right? Was that a sufficient answer? And if he has any comment on that, because I know your involvement and I know why you're asking the question about CIDO. So I'd like to hear just a little bit more of your thinking. Please unmute yourself.
Dr. 𝐂𝐿, do you have any follow-up? You need to unmute yourself, please.
Okay, maybe he's
I
having.
think he's having some technical.
Yeah.
We can come back to him.
Absolutely.
My brother Luckman, go ahead.
Frito Land, I understand and appreciate what the brother comment was prior to the doctor that's in the Caribbean network about getting sufficient enough buy-in and trying to be diplomatic with the gatekeepers and whether or not to hold this, going public with this Zoom and just going full speed forward would be considered an affront to them or disrespectful. But what I want to say is that this meeting, if they see it, we're letting them know already that they have a seat at the table and that the door is open.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's an open door policy. And we're trying to get everybody to get in on the ground floor. And we're not, they have a seat at the table already. Just come in as soon as you hear about it, whether today, tomorrow, or next week. And if they actually understand that, then they should not be the mentality will borderline on factionalism or egoism or something like that. And we do have people who, whether you invite them or whether you wait on them, they don't want to agree. They're not going to be comfortable with a bottom up, mass, people centered type selection of leadership. They're going to want a centralized top down, and so that reason there they're going to have issues, right? And so to stick to the course, the fact that we haven't done this and we done had something like 20-some years to do it, I think we should just understand that the gatekeepers, because we have that problem in the United States with gatekeepers, the boule and all them always want to block the people from, moving forward with the movement and put a bottleneck on us, right? So I think that we should be kind and considerate of them, letting them know that they have a seat at the table, is waiting on them. We hopefully and anxious that you show up, but we should not, let that delay or stop the show. And we should stick on, because they done had a lot of time. We need to take this bull by the horn and run with it and make it happen and just respect them. And the people who can go into those back channels and share it with them, and let them know to reach out to them. But understanding that everybody's not going to be unified. Everybody's not going to get on board. And our goal is not to seek unity with everybody. Our goal is to seek unity with those who agree with the fundamental principles we stand on and want to unify with us. We got to get the job done. And
we have about 10 more seconds.
And I'm gonna just land right there.
Okay.
Free to land. And thank you.
Thank you. Sister Sherry, please.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to be signing off. I have a trip to make, and my limit with Zooms is about an hour anyway. Brother Siphiwe, I appreciate you inviting me. I just got it this morning and realized the timeline. I had to jump on it before I made my trip today. Anyway, as an elder, when you say 20 years, I'm going back 50 years of talking about being a sixth region to Africa. And I just sent you a message when I got this link, Brother Siphiwe, telling you that I'm making plans to go back to Africa, 19 countries and 50 years of travel for dual citizenship purposes. I'm making myself available to you in this effort. I'm a grant writer. If there's anything that I can do in that regard. I didn't know I was supposed to indicate willingness to be a host. I do host my own nonprofit Zoom stuff, but we can talk about that another time. I just wanted to weigh in with this August group of people. Yes, we need to do this. We can do this. And now is the time. It's always the time for us that are out in the struggle all these years. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. And I'm going to bid adieu at this point. We'll talk later.
Thank you so much. Brother Antar Keith, please.
Hi, everybody. I just want to thank Brother Siphiwe for setting this great meeting up. It's very informative. And I want to thank everybody being here as well, helping enrich this already great, really, really synergistic coming together. My name is Antar Keith. I'm the chair of the Democrats Abroad Global Reparations Task Force. I'm really at a personal level, interested in this. I would not be able to operate under the aegis of Democrats Abroad for this because it's dealing with international relations. However, in my capacity as a Black American resident in Germany, I find it fascinating. As I'm listening to it, I've realized that I would be definitely interested in finding myself involved in planning. However, I have a couple of questions. The first question is, I'm unsure, if I coordinate an election or I coordinate coming together of, like a pre-plebiscite within, Germany, would that be possible even though I am an African American? And the second question would be, if I were to, say, hypothetically nominate myself as a a candidate, would coordinating this meeting prohibit me from thus, nominating myself? So those were my two questions. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sister Abimi, Beth?
Let me address that real quick.
Okay, go
ahead. Thank you. And that is some of the awareness and astute questions. So I would simply say this: let's focus on one. Let's just get the information out to as many people in the region as we can. Okay, get the information out by inviting them to come to these regional, right? Anybody that has the capacity and the networks to do that. And in those meetings, you're going to talk about and decide, okay, in our region, right, here is, if you want to nominate someone, say the person or give us the contact, however it is you do it. At that point, then, Antar, you would then deal with the question of your own nomination. So it's, again, invite everybody, okay? Invite everybody through the information process. Say, this is going to be the process in our region. We need nominations, and then we do the elections. So I'm trying to keep it super simple and let everybody else figure out the gnarly details. I yield.
Okay, Minister Lazarus, I think you're next in line.
Greetings, my brother Siphiwe, and I give thanks to see the numbers and all of the like minds. My question was pretty simple. The requirements that are set for an election on that level. And you said also after we do the election, there's a certification process. And when we have the 20 elected, do we have a solidarity goal? You know, are all 20 bringing their own issues, or is there a solidarity goal amongst the 20? Give thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. And greetings, Salamta Tanastalin, 𝐂𝐔-𝐄𝐂𝐎𝐶 𝐵𝐴. Good to see you, Minister Lazarus. It's been quite some time. I sent you, Reverend Kwame was talking about, making sure everybody is included at the table. You're an example. I made sure to send you, right, the information so you could be here today. As a representative of the Ethiopian World Federation, who has a long time stake in this. And in fact, it was Ross McPherson, Rastafari and Ethiopian World Federation, who was actually elected out of New York back in 2005, 2006, with our first attempt. So this is the reason why civil society organizations and its leaders and representatives are going to drive this process. As far as a solidarity message and all of that, I understand that question. Once the representatives are elected, I would recommend they meet amongst themselves prior to actually going to the AU and ECOSOCC and determine how they're going to work with each other, in what capacity. Okay? So again, all of this is being formed collectively. We're building the plane as it flies. So that's my only comment on that.
Okay. I think my brother is back up again. Go ahead, Brother Lugman.
First, I'm gonna comment on the brother in Germany. We're all Pan-Africanists here, right? And people relocate and go on to other countries where, other than their permanent residence, or they move. And the fact that you're African American in Germany may be an advantage to those brothers and sisters in Germany, and you might be the best one to represent and speak for them or capable of organizing for them. So there shouldn't be an automatic disqualification of you from speaking for them and organizing for them and so forth, or in whatever capacity, while since you're in Germany, right? Because they might not have the wherewithal to do it on the level necessary without your contribution, right? Or your leadership role. So, and plus, this is in the spirit of Ubuntu and Pan-Africanism, that wherever we go, we're part of the community. We're one community. And to deal with the other issue, but the brother talking about the solidarity between the 20 representatives, like Brother Siphiwe said, that they will hash out the particular modalities down the road. But one thing I know, particularly with every level of the Black struggle, is that we tend to get into internal disagreements and disputes, and we can't resolve them on how and to have and respect the decision-making process for one reason or another, or don't have an adequate body to resolve our internal disputes. And I've seen that, and it's at the national level of nations, at the organizational levels. And the most important thing is having an adjudicatory body or arbitration body that serves as the final arbitrator that we all respect if we can't resolve our differences on our committees. Because if we look back at the Million Man March and the local organizing committees, the state organizing committees, they broke down because of ego and nobody wanted to listen to the other people. So if we have a body that we set up for the 6th region to act as a final arbitrator or a court to resolve our differences between the 6 different regions,
Brother Lukeman, I'm cutting
that's
you off.
down the road. I'm just saying.
I know. Hold on.
I'm just saying.
Let me cut you off. Right. I understand that the AU-6 region development and structures and all of that, these things that you're talking about, they're important. But yes, that's way down the road. Okay. We need to just focus on process and execution. Process and execution of these simple steps, because this is going to be the thing that actually moves establishing the AU-6 region to that next level as a real entity for itself and within the African Union system. But if we start talking about all these extraneous things that are coming in the future, it runs the risk of derailing our focus on process and execution. I yield.
Ambassador is up next. Thank you, brother.
I concur.
Ambassador.
Thank you again for the floor again through the chair. It is 𝐀-𝐔, but a valiant attempt. So with regards to the process, the question of criteria is a very important one. I say this as a 3 times elections agent. I say this as a consultant for sitting member of parliament for 5 years. I say this as someone who has spent the better part of 40 plus years in politics at the local and national level in my country. And so one of the things that our detractors, and I want us to prepare for them, we are not preparing these elections and or any of our engagements or actions for the people in the room. The people in the room, for the most part, have a certain amount of buy-in, respect your work, respect your intent.
We lost you. Ambassador, we lost you.
And issues of legitimacy in terms of regional representation would come up. Is there a criteria for that? How long should you be in X or Y or Z state? Other qualifications in terms of how long have you been serving the Pan-African community and how? Issues in relation to participation in certain perhaps historic Pan-African events and or participation in local activities within your country and state. Without criteria for nominations and standards in terms of who gets to be nominated in the first place and then subsequently elected, there would be issues that could be raised in terms of legitimacy. And if I were a critic, and I'm not a critic, but I have enough objectivity to think like one, that is definitely something I would raise. And then the second issue, which was raised with regards to what are we selecting these 20 persons for? The idea would be regional geographic representation, selecting persons from different regions. It seems to not be a qualitative selection process, but a quantitative and geographic selection process. And what we may very well find is that those 20 persons may be very, very diverse, which could work in our favor because in the African process of Ubuntu, consensus building is necessary and important. However, our
30 more
diversity,
seconds, sir. 30 more seconds.
yeah, our diversity has not always worked for us. And so having an overarching goal will help and will guide the process. And with that, I land.
Okay.
We're coming up on about an hour and a half now, Brother Balek. So it's how
Okay.
you want to proceed and we sort of wrap up.
Okay, so yeah, let's try to wrap up in the next 20 minutes here.
Okay.
Let me address Reverend 𝐂𝐿's point. And again, I'm going to share the screen. Okay. Now, to the first point about eligibility requirements, to all of these points, let me begin by saying we are the most unique region within the AU system of 6 regions, okay? The 5 regions on the continent, right, are very different from the 6th region. The 6th region encompasses multiple geographical areas that are not connected, multiple languages, cultures, it's vast. Approximately 250+ million people. All right. So we have a duty and an obligation to make sure, for example, that you don't have 16 representatives from the United States because they had the information and they were able to move quickly or whatever. And then you have somebody like Central America doesn't have any, whatever. So it was decided a long time ago, and everybody might not agree with how it was decided, but responsible people working in 2005 and 2006 had decided that the 6th region consists of Brazil, United States, Caribbean, South America, Europe, Middle East, Central America, Canada, Asia, and Oceania. In fact, let me, where is it? I'm having problems seeing part of my screen. Here, all right. I was asked to be a consultant last year to the legal team that was hired out of South Africa for establishing the diaspora inclusion framework within the AU-ECOSOCC. This was the brief that I submitted to them August 24th of 2023. Recommendations for the inclusion of the African diaspora in the African Union's Economic, Social, and Cultural Council. Okay. I will make this available to all of you as well, for those of you that don't have it. All right. On this question of representation, I outlined in the brief for them that in 2002, the Foundation for Democracy in Africa was given the original mandate from the African Union to organize the Western Hemisphere African Diaspora Network. And it proposed that 13 seats go to the Western Hemisphere, which comprises 40% of the global African diaspora, in the following manner. Brazil, 3 seats, Canada, 2 seats, Caribbean, 3 seats, USA, 3 seats, Hispanic Latin region, 2 seats, with the remaining 7 seats to the rest of the world African diaspora, which comprises 60% of the global African diaspora. The abstract roundtable from February 2004 recommended the 20 seats allocated by the AU to the diaspora on ECOSOCC should be allocated as follows. Latin America, including Brazil, 4 seats, the Caribbean, 2 seats, North America, 4 seats, Europe, 4 seats, Asia, 2 seats, the Middle East, 2 seats, Australia and New Zealand, 2 seats. The 6th Region Diaspora Caucus, based on a tentative but operational and diaspora agreement at that time in 2005-2006, proposed the following. USA 4, Canada 1, Caribbean 3, 4, Eurasia 5. All right. The process for election was laid out in the SRDC, the African Union, the Community Town Hall, and Pan-Africanism, questions and answers, and organizing the diaspora, eating the elephant one bite at a time. This was work that was done on this issue. No clear-cut method to determine how seat allocation is remembered by this author, that's me, though it is somewhat based on population statistics. I'm bringing this up to say, right, that a lot of work was done on this issue about representation. We're not going to go backwards on that, okay? We're going to go forwards. We're saying this is what it is. And Reverend 𝐀𝐔-𝐄𝐂𝐎, you're correct. There's going to be a lot of diverse issues. This is not about it's okay, let's just say it's okay to have the diverse issues. Now, to your point about eligibility, I believe in my people. I believe that we can have open nominations, and then when those nominations, when it's time for those that are nominated to speak, I believe that the collective is not going to choose somebody that lacks the appropriate experience. So we may have new blood coming into it that has technical capacity but no experience. We may have people that are nominated that have a ton of experience, but for one reason or another might not be a good fit right now. I believe that in each region, the people will know, and this is the point of the election. This is the person we believe, or these are the people we believe will be the most qualified. So I don't see it necessary of having a whole bunch of formal rules about eligibility and all of that. We may disagree on this point. I just say open nominations. Everybody will say why it is they think that they're a good fit. They'll talk about their experience, and then the collective in that region will determine for themselves. So I yield.
Okay.
And let me just say, for example, Reverend 𝐀𝐔-𝐄𝐎, the Caribbean region may decide it actually needs formal eligibility criteria. And so you will have to quickly do that, get that out. This is why I'm saying it's decentralized, because in some regions that's not going to be necessary. So if that region feels real strongly about that, of course, they're free to go ahead and do that, right? This is designed to be efficient, maximally efficient for each region. I yield.
So, Brother Baleka, why don't you outline next steps again before we wrap up? I think we've had enough conversation. We don't want to keep people on forever.
All right. So the next steps are this. Okay. Reverend 𝐀𝐿, first of all, next step, I'm going to prepare this video so that 48 hours from now, it can be released to the public. I'm going to go through the chat, get everybody's contact, set up the WhatsApp group. In that WhatsApp group, I'm going to share all of the information that's already been published. Okay. Reverend 𝐀𝐿 is going to sort of lead this back channel, right, effort to diplomatically make sure certain groups that need to be included in a specific way. He will focus specifically in his region, but others may understand the need for this, and you guys can all coordinate, work within that WhatsApp group. So we'll have 48 hours to do all of that. Okay, 48 hours from now, then, unless there's some really compelling reason that we can't go forward, we will announce, here are the coordinators for the 9 regions, here's the information, the process, the procedures, right? And all of that information, each region will be updating me, and I will be providing oversight while we go through the process.
Okay. All right. So let's thank everyone for who got on this Zoom.
Free land.
Sure. Any last comments?
Yeah, I want to, if we have any digital marketers, content creators, and webmasters to put their content in the chat, or get with the brother Siphiwe, so we can boost our capacity to get to people and reach the people through communication mechanisms. And with that, I yield.
Thanks so much. All right, thank you, everyone. If you haven't put your information in the chat, please make sure you do. We want to thank our brother Balika again for organizing this. And if you want to, help sort of coordinate, put that information in the chat also. Brother Balika, we give you closing comments, and then we're going to sign off.
Okay. I just want to thank all of you for coming. We have everybody on here is already working in organizations. This is the core group that can make this happen. We've been given a challenge. We're either going to rise to the occasion and accomplish something that we've needed to do for 20 years, or we don't. And then whatever happens after that, whatever. This is ecumenical, right? It's about all of us under Ubuntu for the 6th region. I believe in us. If I didn't think it was possible, I wouldn't have called, I wouldn't have even initiated it. I do think we can get it done, but it's going to take all of you. The main focus now is, right, these 9 coordinators for each region who will take responsibility for all distributing all the content and calling all the Zooms, getting people invited, and calling for the nominations. I will do my best as soon as that resolution from the African Commission on Human and People's Rights is cleared and uploaded. I will get that distributed, because that will have the details on exactly what it is that the ACHPR has committed to. And again, Abene bin Hamne Yowule, I want to thank the ancestors. We are here because they came before us, and we are doing this for the next generations. And with that, I yield.
Thank you. Thank you. We're signing off then. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Blessings. Excellent work.
Thank you.